Good morning, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are, YouTube. So I was going to do a video today on the North Korean USA situation, a little bit between obviously Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump is ongoing. Everyone's got an opinion on it, but really I think that's one of those situations, what's to be said that hasn't already been said, and it's you know, it is what it is, and let's see how things develop, because it's in its infancy still. So at this stage I'm going to put that one on ice. And I thought just now, as I was just following a diesel powered car, at the Volkswagen Dieselgate scenario, and I don't know if it's true in the US, but in the UK people were encouraged to buy diesel vehicles, and this is where some of the controversies come. People were encouraged to buy diesel vehicles because, of course, mile for mile they emit a little bit less CO2, and the difference isn't as big as you'd think either. But there was encouragement. Now, some people always said no, diesel is a dirty fuel, you only need to look at the fact they need huge amounts of filtration, diesel particulate filters, to avoid belching out clouds of smoke. You can smell it when a diesel engine drives past, but over in Europe they rapidly became the norm, and people in the USA are now actually being offered compensation for owners of Volkswagen cars, and that struck me as a little bit odd. There's two reasons why it strikes me as a little bit odd. A, the owners are not in any way financially out of pocket, other than maybe a detriment to the resale value, but that's not massively different. It's not really going to make a measurable difference. You can only really quantify that over time, and other than that, no one's actually out of pocket, so quite what the money is being awarded for is a little bit of a mystery. And secondly, you only need to actually look at the figures yourself, and you can see quite easily that although the CO2 figure is lower, the figures for pretty much everything else were much, much higher. Hydrocarbons, nitrogen monoxide, all sorts of things were absolutely awful in comparison to petrol engines. And the other reason I've got a bit of a problem with people being paid from Volkswagen ownership is that all other diesel manufacturers have been at it as well. It might not have had quite the impact that the Volkswagen scandal has. That's largely because Volkswagen's the one we knew about, and it's become apparent that absolutely all manufacturers have had a similar sort of scandal hit them, and therefore why is Volkswagen being unnecessarily penalised compared to everyone else? I mean, obviously I don't believe there's much of a market, if any, for Skoda and Seat in the USA, but Audi as well, obviously part of Volkswagen, and they have also been hit by the scandal. And equally, other manufacturers such as Toyota have all cheated emissions, or at least introduced a mode that allows them to get their emissions through. So realistically it seems odd that there's a penalisation for Volkswagen more than anyone else, because they might have been the biggest player in the market, they're certainly not the only one. And the other thing is, for my mind, the whole emissions of diesel, I've got a good analogy I use for it. I've always said this about diesel engines. Basically, if you've got a pint glass and you put a few drops of orange juice in it, then you get a little whiskey tumbler and you half fill it with water, half fill it with bleach. If you're only looking at the water content of those 2 pint glasses, the pint glass of water with a few drops of orange juice in it looks much worse than the whiskey tumbler that's only half full of water. But then I'd ask you, which one do you want to drink? And CO2 emissions obviously are an area we need to work on, and there is a problem with CO2 emissions. But with the advent of hybrids and turbo and variable geometry turbo and things like that, petrol engines, the petrols have now got the efficiency back that the diesels gained on them, and some of the better petrols now are doing 60 miles per gallon. Well, you obviously UK miles per gallon, which are a little bit bigger, therefore probably 50 in the US, but very respectable mileages. So ergo, they're not emitting any more CO2 than the diesels ever did, but they're not emitting all the noxious substances as well. Now obviously the internal combustion engine is in its dying days. We are seeing its very end. So I have to wonder who on earth is buying new diesels. But there you go. Do you think it was justification in compensation? If so, I'm interested to hear how, because I don't see what those people have lost, and therefore I don't see why they should be compensated. Because you could say it's partly down to poor research when buying the vehicle, and secondly, they're not out of pocket or being inconvenienced, so I don't see as any grounds for compensation at all. They might have been a bit cheekily lied to, or not lied to, but were misled rather than deliberately lied, because Volkswagens, let's just remember, these cars did achieve these figures in testing circumstances, but we all know testing isn't the real world. So if you've chosen to interpret that as such, that is partly your own fault. And it's just really odd that the American market has had compensation. The UK market and European market doesn't seem to have so much. But do you think it was justified in paying out compensation? If so, why? Or do you think people should just think, oh well, didn't do my homework, suck it up and move on? But it's all going to become irrelevant, because diesel is going to be the first casualty of the death of internal combustion. It's going to be the first type of vehicle that goes. So we have now seen pretty much the last generation of diesels we're going to see. No manufacturer is going to be thinking now about developing new diesel engine passenger cars, as it simply isn't sensible to develop something that's really not going to sell. So yeah, hybrids are going to be the way forward for the next sort of 25 years or so, and we're going to see an ever greater increase, first of all I think in plug-in hybrids, and then move on to complete electric power. But if you do like these videos, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm going to try not to get run over by that 4x4, and hit the like and subscribe button, share the videos, and we'll speak to you soon.